All right, let's just jump right in. We're about to tackle what some people call the single hardest problem in all of science and, well, all of philosophy. And the funny thing is, it's not out there in the cosmos, among the distant stars and galaxies. Nope, it's right here, inside each and every one of us. It's the mystery of your own mind.
Seriously, just think about it for a second. What is it actually like to taste a piece of rich, dark chocolate? Or to see a really vibrant, perfect red? You know that experience, right? It's completely familiar to you. But could you ever truly describe that inner feeling to someone else? That private, internal movie that's playing only for you? Right now? Well, that is the heart of the whole mystery.
Now, there's a technical term for this. It's called phenomenal consciousness. It's basically the what-it's-likeness of any experience. It's your private, first-person reality that literally no one else can get into. And here's the wild part. We have no solid scientific explanation for why we even have it at all. And that brings us directly to something that philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. It's what separates all the questions we kind of can answer from the one huge question that has so far just completely stumped us. Okay, so look at this breakdown because it's absolutely key. On the left, you've got the so-called easy problems. And look, easy's not the right word. They're incredibly complex, but they're problems we can solve in theory. They're all about function. How does the brain take in information, sort it out, and react to it? Science is getting really good at that stuff. But the hard problem on the right, that's a whole different beast. It's not about function, it's about experience. Why does all that neural processing feel like anything from the inside? Why aren't we just, biological robots, processing data with no inner life, no awareness?
The philosopher David Chalmers, who really made this term famous, he just put it perfectly. The real issue is the experience itself. What connects seeing the color red, hearing your favorite song, or feeling a little sad is that there is something it is like to be in those states. That little phrase, something it is like, that's the entire puzzle right there.
So you have to wonder, how have some of the brightest minds on the planet tried to crack this thing? Well, let's take a quick tour of the leading theories and see why, at least according to the source material we're looking at, they've all kind of come up short.
So the main view in science, the dominant idea, is materialism. It basically says that everything is physical. Your thoughts, your feelings, your entire sense of awareness. It's all at the end of the day just brain activity. But there's a really powerful thought experiment that was designed to put this very idea to the test. It's famously known as Mary's room. So imagine this woman, Mary. She's a brilliant neuroscientist who has spent her entire life in a room that is completely black and white. But she's a genius. She has books and monitors, and she learns every single physical fact there is to know about the universe, especially about color vision. I mean, she knows the exact wavelength of red, the precise neurons that fire when you see it. She knows everything physical. So here's the billion-dollar question. Does Mary know everything there is to know about seeing the color red? So what do you think happens? One day, the door opens, and Mary is allowed to leave the room. She sees a red rose for the first time. And in that one instant, she obviously learns something brand new. She learns what it is like to actually experience red. And the conclusion here is pretty shocking. If Mary knew all the physical facts before, but she still learned something new when she came out, then it must mean the physical facts aren't all the facts there are.
And what this suggests is pretty huge. That there might be another kind of truth out there, a truth about subjective experience that exists completely beyond the physical world. And for materialism, that is a massive, massive problem.
Now, of course, materialism has a few other flavors, and there are some other totally different ideas out there, too. So let's do a quick lightning round of the big ones.
First up, we've got eliminative materialism. This is the most hardcore version out there. It pretty much says that your subjective feelings, they aren't real. They're just an illusion, a kind of folk psychology that advanced neuroscience is eventually going to get rid of. You just think you have an inner experience, but you're actually a biological robot.
But the pushback on this is pretty simple. That's not an explanation. That's just a denial of the very thing we're trying to explain in the first place. It's kind of like trying to explain why it rains by just insisting that water doesn't exist. It doesn't really get you anywhere.
Okay, next is functionalism. This view says consciousness is all about the job it does. It's the relationship between an input, like seeing your bus pull up to the stop, a mental state, like worrying you're going to miss it, and an output, which is you running to catch it. The problem here? You could know that entire functional flowchart, inside and out, and it still wouldn't tell you a single thing about what that feeling of worry is actually like. That subjective, what it's like quality just gets completely left out of the picture.
And then you get an even wilder idea. panpsychism. This theory suggests that, hey, maybe consciousness isn't just for brains. Maybe it's a fundamental feature of matter itself. I mean, every single particle, from an electron to a quark, has some tiny, basic, primitive form of experience.
Now, the huge challenge for this idea is something called the combination problem. Think about it. If every tiny particle in your grain has its own little speck of consciousness, how on earth do all those trillions of little specks combine to create your one single unified experience of, say, listening to me talk right now? It's a great question, and nobody really has a good answer.
So, if all these major scientific and philosophical theories seem to fall short, what's left on the table? Well, our source material here proposes a very different kind of explanation, one that moves away from materialism altogether.
The argument it presents is a theistic one, and it basically rests on 3 key points. First, it tackles the origin of consciousness. It says it didn't just magically pop out of non-conscious matter, but that it was created by a being that is itself conscious and all-aware. Second, it addresses that mind-body interaction problem. A non-physical mind can interact with a physical brain because that's just how the creator designed reality to work. And third, it explains our subjectivity. We have this amazing capacity for inner experience because it was given to us by that conscious, ever-living source.
So, from this point of view, our consciousness isn't some bizarre freak accident in an otherwise dead and meaningless universe. Instead, it's a natural reflection of a reality that is, at its very foundation, grounded in awareness itself.
Phew. So where does all this leave us? We've gone all the way from tasting a simple piece of chocolate to asking some of the deepest questions about the nature of reality. Let's try to bring it all back home.
The source text we've been exploring asks us to do something really simple, but also really profound. To just reflect within ourselves. To actually consider the nature of that very awareness that's doing the reflecting in the first place.
And this all leads us to the final, really provocative question that's posed by this material. We've seen how a purely materialist worldview seriously struggles to explain your inner, subjective self, even to the point where some versions just claim it's all an illusion. So the final thought is this. If a worldview, by leaving no room for a conscious creator, also seems to leave no room for the reality of your own experience, does it maybe inadvertently leave no real room for you? It's a question that connects the biggest cosmic possibilities to the most intimate and real thing you'll ever know, your own mind.